I now have the pleasure to invite to the podium Mr. Hani Almadhoun, Senior Director of Philanthropy at UNRWA USA, who has taken the time to be with us and will deliver a briefing on the situation in Gaza from the vantage point of the Palestinian population there, and especially on the issue of humanitarian aid during the war. You have the floor.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, and esteemed colleagues, I stand before you today as an American advocate for the Palestinian people and for the humanitarian mission of the United Nations. And I am also here as a grieving brother. Much of my family in north of Gaza, and over the past 16 months, I've been one of the millions of Palestinians around the world who day after day have received news of our families and neighbors experiencing unjustifiable losses and indignities. My world shattered for the first time on November 24, 2023, when Israel dropped a bomb on the family home where my brother lived, killing him, his wife Safa, their 4 beautiful children, and even their beloved cat, Lucky. The house was gone in an instant, reduced to rubble. For a week, my mother stood guard over the lifeless bodies of Majid, Safa, and their children. She was grieving, but at the same time, she had to shield them from the stray and starving dogs. Can you imagine that? Took a full week to retrieve their remains. My family and neighbors had to bury Safa twice because only half of her body could be recovered in the first day. The rest they dug up by hand. And if this wasn't enough to process, my world shattered again a few days later when footage emerged from North Gaza, Palestinian men being paraded by the Israeli army in their underwear as if they were part of some grotesque spectacle. I looked closely, and there he was, my other brother Mahmoud, humiliated and falsely accused of being a fighter. He's not. He has never been. He's not even physically fit enough to run for more than 10 minutes. When some courageous journalists started asking questions about the footage, the lies fell apart, and they released my brother, barefoot, in his boxers, and left far from his home with nothing but the indignity they had forced upon him. My world continued to shatter 2 weeks later. I picked up my phone and I saw a video of my sister Samah trying to bake bread using animal feed. My family had run out of flour and pasta, and the only option left was rabbit food. She told me it smelled so unbearable that even their cat refused to eat it. This was devastating for me to hear, not only as her brother, but because I am the Senior Director of Philanthropy at UNRWA USA, which is an American not-for-profit that supports the amazing and critical work of UNRWA, the UN agency. See, individual efforts, no matter how heartfelt, cannot replace the comprehensive support that established institutions like UNRWA provide. UNRWA's role in delivering essential wide-scale services, education, healthcare, and humanitarian aid is indispensable to the well-being of the Palestine refugees. The thing about humanitarian work, though, is that people will find a way to keep at it. I hear the news of this every day in my work. UNRWA staff across the occupied Palestinian territories continue to find ways to help as many people as they can, even with very little. And I saw it in my third brother's devotion to caring for the people. In February 2024, right around Valentine's Day, amid my family's suffering, my brother Mahmoud and I managed to co-found the Gaza Soup Kitchen in Beit Lahia in North Gaza. It started with Mahmoud cooking over a simple open fire place, and soon it became a lifeline, serving hot meals to thousands of families every day and helping to avert more victims of the famine Israel has imposed on our people in Gaza. I'm here to tell you the famine in Israel. We've served food for people at the Kamal Adwan Hospital at the malnourished division. But Chef Mahmoud's vision was never just about food. By late summer of last year, he had also set up a medical clinic that was treating up to 75 patients when the hospitals were placed under siege. Small clinics like that were life-saving. He would provide things like baby formula and diapers. By the fall, he had founded a small school to provide lessons to 560 children. In fact, in the school, he put a sign in Hebrew that read, "Please do not bomb," and he put the American flag. Many others in Gaza have launched similar efforts over the months. And so many people over the world have helped keep this work going, including many from the United States. Many families like mine who had already been displaced 10 times before the brutal assault have never once considered leaving Gaza. This is important because as devastating as these 16 months have been, this is not a new story. Our elders who survived the 1948 Nakba taught us that historically Palestinians who leave homes are never allowed to return. And whenever the world failed the Palestinian people, when food was denied, when resources were blocked, the land did not. It gave them wild greens, purslane, and mallow, Swiss chard to survive on. It held them when no one in the world would. That's why forcing Palestinians out of Gaza is as unrealistic as draining the ocean. Real progress lies in the pursuit of justice and freedom of our people, of economic development and stability, and of a genuine and lasting peace. But in the meantime, Gaza endures, not just through struggle, but through resilience, through the unbreakable bond between its people and its earth. I wish I could tell you my world stopped shattering, but it happened again. This past November, Mahmoud, my dear brother and North Gaza's beloved chef, was targeted and killed by an Israeli strike. When it happened, Mahmoud was just 30 yards from the shelter where his 7 children awaited his return. His youngest, just weeks old. His death was not an accident. It was a deliberate act meant to silence anyone who stands in the way of Gaza's erasure. Mahmoud was not a fighter. He's a father. He was a father, a humanitarian, and a man devoted to his community. His only crime was his unwavering commitment to organizing humanitarian aid, delivering meals, and sustaining those around him. Last week in North Gaza, my family set out with heavy hearts to move Chef Mahmoud to the town's cemetery, as he had been placed in a makeshift grave. We wanted to put him near our 3 siblings, but when the family arrived, they found devastation. Israeli tanks had erased the graves, leaving only rubble and uncertainty. We could not find our loved ones' resting places. We could not lay Mahmoud beside them as we had planned. The trauma to my family at this moment is indescribable. Yet even in this heartbreak, my only surviving brother, Muhammad, may have found a grave for our brother Mahmoud. He is now moving my brother carefully, wrapping him in a new shroud. May his memory be eternal. Like thousands of families in Gaza, we may no longer have graves to visit, but we hold on to one truth: our loved ones are with their Creator. This personal tragedy is but a reflection of the broader suffering endured by countless Palestinian families. The relentless assault and deliberate starvation and the systematic attempt to force displacement are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader strategy by this illegal occupation that strikes at the heart of our existence. In the face of such adversity, we remain steadfast. We continue finding ways to support one another and to draw strength from the land and from the support and loving people around the world, many of whom are in this room. That's why, in these trying times, leaders must reaffirm a collective commitment to upholding the rights of the dignity of the Palestinian people and must ensure that UNRWA continue its work as mandated by the United Nations. This is not merely an act of charity, but a reinforcement of our shared values and dedication to justice, and if it's important to you, national interest. To date, my colleagues and I at UNRWA USA have coordinated delivering tens of millions in grassroots donations to sustain UNRWA's education, healthcare, and food assistance for millions of refugees. It warmed our hearts to see individual donors came from across the United States and more than 80 countries to support our work, including from Israel, from within Israel, and from diverse places of worship like synagogues, churches, mosques, and even concert halls. What's more, so many countries represented here today have long extended support to the Palestinian people and continue to do so in these darkest of times. And now, we need to be able to continue raising and delivering these crucial funds. It will require an immense amount of work, assistance and funding to rebuild Gaza, and to even begin to help Palestine refugees take back their dignity yet again. And Palestinians will rebuild. I thank the community on the exercise of the unalienable rights for the Palestinian people for inviting me to share my story today from both my Palestinian community and my American one. And I thank the committee for all the work it has been doing for so many years and for the moral clarity and for until the realization of justice, freedom, dignity, and peace for all our people. Thank you, esteemed colleagues. I leave you with what dear Chef Mahmoud used to say whenever he closes the videos in Arabic. He used to say, "Mustamirreen," which means we will continue. Thank you so much.
I thank Mr. Almadhoun for his briefing. The committee reaffirms its support for your organization and many Palestinians in Gaza who self-organized during the war and its aftermath to provide humanitarian aid initiatives like the Gaza Soup Kitchen. We extend our deepest condolences to the families of all humanitarian workers, UNRWA staff and CSO, NGO staff personnel, and other Palestinian aid workers who have lost their lives in service, feeding and supporting Gaza's besieged, starved, and deprived Gaza population.